I'm Dmitriy Rumynin. I am a British mathematician of Russian origin. I grew up in Krasnoyarsk in Siberia. I did my undergraduate studies in Novosibirsk, also in Siberia. I did my PhD in the United States. Then I went to work in Britain, and that's where I spent all of my adult life. And after the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I relinquished my Russian citizenship, so I am a British mathematician now. There was this Freeman Dyson classified mathematicians into frogs and birds. I am a bird, so I like lots of different mathematics. I classify myself as a representation theorist, but I'm also interested in algebraic geometry and algebraic topology and some other things. And I even wrote 5 patents. It was Siberian school algebra and analysis in early 90s that I attended. And it was late Soviet times, and Baikal is a beautiful lake, that's where it was. But there was only one tourist place at Buchta Pyshanka, at Sand Bay there. And on that particular conference, mathematicians coexisted with gangsters. There was a group of about 6 gangsters from Angarsk on holidays. They were not like violent robbers. I think they were doing protection racket around timber trade in that region. But we coexisted very peacefully. In fact, we played volleyball against them. Gangsters against mathematicians. They were closed games, but I think mathematicians were winning slightly. We were better. And then, at one of the lectures, one of the gangsters, Sergei, came over. And it was an analysis lecture on prime differentials. And he asked the guy in front of him, "Do you understand?" And the guy said, "No." Then he poked me and said, "Do you understand?" I said, "No." So he felt normal. He was sitting through the whole 1-hour lecture, stayed for the second one. But then some of the foreigners came over, the lecturer switched to English, Sergei left. Then in the evening, Sergei sees me, and one of the issues gangsters had, they had enough alcohol, but they didn't have enough cigarettes. And it was difficult to buy anything on that base. He saw me and said, "Oh, Dmitry, hello, have you got a cigarette?" I said, "Okay, let's go watch the lake and have a smoke." And we were sitting at the lake and smoking and discussing life. And he said, "That was tough. I couldn't understand anything." Then he looked at me and said, "Look, when I came from the army, I was also doing silly things," referring to my interest in mathematics. He said, "I was playing shell game on the market, then trading some vodka, but now I've got to do protection racket. It's a good job." And he looked at me and said, "You're a big guy, what are you doing there? So you should hang around the market and also join some protection racket gang." And I thought, "Sergey, thank you for life coaching," but I didn't follow his advice. Well, that depends how parallel it is. So suppose my aptitude to mathematics was never discovered, then I would be probably doing something else. I was, as a child, was always fascinated with public transport. Obviously not with waiting for a crowded bus in Soviet Union, but watching a tram driver Once I was in a cockpit in a plane as a kid, and it was so fascinating. I was also on a bridge, on a ship. So probably I would be a tram driver in completely parallel universe. Speaking more seriously, there were several crossroads in my life where the events could have taken a different road. At the end of my undergraduate studies, for example, I wasn't sure what to do, and the country was collapsing, the science was also collapsing, and I tried to apply to a law school to do a second degree. Didn't get in, but then somehow I decided to prepare better, and in parallel to applying for a PhD, I was also preparing to apply to a law school. Fortunately, I got to a PhD and continued my mathematical career. Later on, also that when I was already in Warwick, I was doing some consultancy on the side, and I had an offer to go full-time into a high-tech startup. I was considering it very seriously, but at the time I didn't have British citizenship. I decided it's better kind of to have a job, to settle immigrationally before doing something else, and the offer passed. Ski jumping. Well, not really jumping itself, so I'm afraid of heights. So watching it on TV. Okay, it was an attempt of a joke. I don't think I have a real serious hobbies. I don't collect stamps. I don't sing in a choir. Obviously, I read books, I travel, I drink wine, but they're not real hobbies. Having said that, I played basketball quite seriously. I stopped doing it maybe 10 years ago and a bit, because it's a high impact sport and my ankles are quite damaged from that, and not to end up in a wheelchair, I would have to stop playing. But interestingly enough, basketball played a big role in me becoming a mathematician. Let me tell you how it happened. I was in high school and I was doing basketball very seriously. It was 6 times a week, formal practices, and running and doing weight training on my own. But then my teacher, my mathematical teacher, thought I had some aptitude, and she sent me to this mathematical competition, which I won. And I had to, and it was for 1 year above. I was in the 7th grade, it was for the 8th grade, and I qualified for national competition. And I had to cover all 8 grades mathematics in 2 months to prepare for competition. Anyway, competition passed, and my basketball coach tells me, Dmitry, now you know all the mathematics, you know what you can do? You can go to your teacher and ask her not to go to lessons, but go to the gym and practice your basketball shot. I think, wonderful idea, I think. Go to my teacher, say, Elena Mikhailovna, here is the deal. I know all the mathematics, I can do homeworks, whatever is required, but could I go and practice my basketball shot during the lessons? And she looked at me and said, interesting idea, but no. However, you obviously don't have to do all this classwork, but here there are lots of quant magazines at the back, which you can go and read during the lessons. And I think it formed my initial interest in mathematics, because during all this lesson, instead of listening how to solve quadratic equation over and over again, I was reading Quant magazine, and it was lots of very fun mathematics. Oh, I mean, young people don't need any advice from old farts like me, but I think you should understand two important features of mathematical vocation, which is a wonderful profession in all the respects. But once, I think we produce too many PhDs. It could be positive, it could be negative. It could be positive because more people are exposed. But as a result, there aren't enough jobs for all the PhDs we produce. And the second feature is that it's always possible to move somewhere. For most of the mathematicians, it's always possible to move somewhere close to get an easier career and more money. And I don't mean going completely on the dark side like finance or programming, but something like medical statistics or data science. And the advice is the following: you have to take your mathematical career seriously and professionally. You can think, okay, I'll be just solving great problems and then do, I don't know, Jacobian conjecture and hope to solve it. Okay, if you solve it, you'll get a great career, but it's a matter of luck whether you're going to solve big problems quickly enough to have a great career. But think what else you can do. So first of all, as an undergrad, take this extra course in statistics or data science. That could be helpful, that could widen your horizons. Then think of other things you can do within mathematics. Yeah? So think whether you're a good colleague. Think as a salesman, can you talk about your mathematics to your colleagues to make it interesting? Are you an interesting popularizer of your particular mathematics? Can you talk to colleagues in slightly other areas? Can you run a department? For instance, so I'm always dealing with job applications, and there are this particular type of application, we call it problem-solving machine. So you can see someone who is actually good at writing papers, but there is no evidence of anything else. No conference organization, and it's not even no kind of sometimes collaboration. So you feel that this person may be a good mathematician, but are they the right colleagues to have? And this is the question you should answer. How can I appear good professional colleagues that people not only in my area, but in all other areas of mathematics want you to have around? Beautiful and unique. It's my third sabbatical here, and it's a lot of young mathematicians and not so young like me, interested in all sorts of pure mathematics which I can relate to. But it also different from other similar institutions. So if you look at Newton or IHS or Misery or Banff, they're all relatively in the middle of nowhere. And here it's very urban. You're in a beautiful city with a beautiful atmosphere, outside, Christmas market. If you want to eat out for 2 or 3 months, you can go to a different restaurant every day. And lots of things happening. I think it's an absolutely wonderful place. And it's a great legacy that Hirzebruch left after him. And I saw him on my first sabbatical. I remember him.